This is a review for the Oppo Reno 4 Pro. So I've been using the Reno 4 Pro for about a week now, and I have a couple thoughts about it. Some good, some not so good. There are certain areas that I feel that the phone can be improved on. My current personal phone that I've been using is a Samsung S20 Plus. So using Oppo was a bit of a transition. They're not exactly the same, even though they are in fact running on Android. Oppo uses ColorOS, and it does certain things differently from One UI, which Samsung uses. So first of all, let's talk about the overall design and feel of the phone. Just picking it up and just feeling it, you'll notice first of all that the phone is incredibly light. It's 161 grams. It's very thin, so you can easily just slip it in your pocket easily. You can use it one-handed without much fuss. Personally, I prefer phones that have a bit more heft to them. Light phones are fine, but they feel a bit fragile in my hands. Also, the plastic backing of the phone is... Initially, I thought it felt okay, but after using it for a week, I'm not that into the plastic backing. It's a bit slippery in the hands. I find that using the clear case that they provided in the box, which the phone came in, provided a much better experience since the clear case has a bit more grip to it. The plastic backing has a matte finish to it, but it smudges really easily, so you might want to slip a case on it, otherwise you have to keep on cleaning it. I find the current trend of filling up phones with cameras is kind of hilarious actually, but Oppo does put it neatly in a straight line at the back. But the camera enclosure itself is made of plastic, which also smudges very easily. So you might want to watch out when you're taking photos with it. Make sure you clean up the plastic enclosure of the camera beforehand. I'm personally not a fan of the side buttons on this phone. I find that they're way too thin. The buttons are situated much too close to the actual frame of the phone, and because of that, there isn't much feedback when you're clicking on it. It doesn't feel satisfying, especially if you have larger fingers like myself. It feels like the buttons are sort of like stabbing into your fingers, and it's one of the things that I dislike about this phone. One thing I really like about mid and lower range phones nowadays is that some of them still retain the 3.5mm headphone jack. Having the option to use wired headphones is a much welcome feature to have. There's only one speaker on the phone, and that's on the bottom of the phone, right where you probably hold it when you're watching a video in like landscape format. Is right here. So if you're not careful, you'll probably cover the speaker when watching a video. You can always take it off. Yeah, sure. The speaker is just okay. It's not an amazing speaker. It's functional. It's good enough for watching your average video, listening to some songs. Some phones have dual speakers nowadays at the top and the bottom to simulate the stereo left and right. This one doesn't have that. It only has that one speaker at the bottom. Calls are really clear from both sides, receiving and transmitting. I didn't really have any problems while conversing with another person on the phone. So even though the speaker on the phone is nothing to rave about, the one thing that I actually do like about the phone is the actual display of the phone. It has a Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080 by 2400 pixels. Its refresh rate is 90 Hz. And that's much better than your average phone, which usually runs about 60 or 72 Hz. And 90 Hz on a Super AMOLED is quite incredible actually. You get really crisp imagery, your colors come out really nice. So I personally use phones a lot to watch videos, and watching videos on YouTube is a very nice experience with the 90 Hz display. Watching HDR videos also works quite nicely. Anything you watch is just super smooth, super responsive. The screen, when you're scrolling through the menu, it just slides by very nicely. For playing games on the phone, the 90 Hz display works really well. Whatever games they may be, driving games, shooting games, we've tested a couple of games like Call of Duty and Asphalt, and they all ran really smoothly. You do have the option of changing the display refresh rate to 60 Hz instead of 90 Hz. You do save some battery life while using 60 Hz, but the battery life savings is quite negligible, so I would recommend just always using 90 Hz. The camera, I would say, is adequate. It's not the best camera set that you would get with a phone, but it's good enough for what it is. The main camera is a 48 megapixel camera, and you have an ultra wide that's 8 megapixels, a macro camera which is 2 megapixel, you have a depth sensor which is 2 megapixels, and also a 32 megapixel front camera for your selfies. I feel that the main camera works well for a mid-range phone. The colors are vibrant enough. It works much better when you have the proper light conditions. It doesn't work as well in low light, but you do have a night mode function if you really need to shoot in low light. The ultra wide is nice to have, but the fact that it's 8 megapixels is a bit detrimental. You do get a dip in quality while using the ultra wide. So I would highly recommend ultra wide to be used outdoors when there's a lot of light. The macro camera works quite well from my experience. I tried using it on a couple of miniature figurines, and the photos that came out from those were pretty nice actually. I was able to see details of the figurines. The colors were nice. Video quality is quite similar to the photo quality. You have the same 3 cameras. They did have a special mono mode for video where you can isolate certain colors, red, green or blue, and it will make other colors in that scene monochrome, which is a nice feature and works quite well. I feel it's a very situational feature. And although the quality of the pictures and videos are pretty good, they're really only good looking at it through the phone. Bring out the pictures and the videos to a computer, you start to see some of the flaws. There's a lot of digital post-processing going on. So at the end of the day, the pictures you get are much better suited for like social media posts, especially if you're looking at it through the display of the phone. Okay, let's talk about the performance of the phone. The Reno 4 Pro houses a Snapdragon 720G processor, which is not the greatest processor, but it's also quite decent, I would say, especially if using the phone mainly for like browsing the internet, watching videos, playing games. It works on most games quite well actually. But I did test Genshin Impact on it, which is a larger scaled game, and the phone defaulted the graphics to low initially, which looked fine, but there was some stuttering going on. The phone was trying to keep up with the game, so it was a bit laggy in terms of frame rate. I was skipping a few frames. It does have limitations because of the processor. So I like unlocking my phone using a fingerprint, and the fingerprint reader on this phone is located on the screen itself, which is something I don't really like that much. I much prefer fingerprint readers to be on a button, either at the side or at the bottom of the phone, or on the back of the phone. Those seem to have better success rates from my experience. But the on-screen fingerprint reader on this phone is actually pretty good. It's very snappy, it's fast. I've had a really high success rate. Instantly unlocks the phone. The only problem I have with on-screen fingerprint readers is that if you ever decide to put on a screen protector on the phone, it will mess with the fingerprint readings a bit and makes it a bit harder to unlock your phone. Some vendors do sell screen protectors with a hole in the middle of the screen, so you can put your finger there, but those screen protectors just look really bad, honestly. So if you're the kind of person who likes to put screen protectors on your phones, to protect your phone from like micro scratches, you might want to keep that in mind. The battery life on the phone is actually quite decent. I've got like a full day's worth of it and plus a couple of hours on it quite easily. It is a 4000 milliamp hour battery, but the main wonderful thing about the battery is the actual charging system of the battery. Oppo uses their SuperVOOC 2.0 system, which they advertise being able to charge from 0 to 100% in 36 minutes for the Reno 4 Pro. And we tested it ourselves and we didn't quite get the 36 minutes. Ours was at 40 minutes to get to 100%. So I think your mileage may vary, especially if you're from different regions, you have different power outputs on your outlets. Those things do play a part in the actual charging times for your phone. The wired charging is really fast, but that's the only way you're going to charge the phone. There's no wireless charging feature on the phone, unfortunately. One thing I do like about the phone is the screen off gestures that you can activate. Since I dislike the side buttons of the phone, there's a double tap feature where you can just double tap on the screen and it will wake up the phone. can also switch on the camera by drawing an O on the screen, and if you draw a V on the screen, you can switch on the torchlight. So overall, I feel the Reno 4 Pro is a decent mid-range phone. A lot of its functions are pretty on par for what you expect on a mid-ranger. So at the end of the day, I'll give this one a 7 out of 10. So if you'd like to see more reviews, tech unboxings, anything tech related at all, you can check out our website at thehomeground.asia. And till then, I'll see you next time.